What's up, family? How y'all doing? It's your girl, your diva in knowledge. Lady Mocha represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Big ups to all of my A1s from day ones who've been supporting my movement since 2017. Those of you who have just recently subscribed, I dearly welcome you to Mocha's Cafe de Paris platform. And this is your first time ever checking out any of my content and you like what you hear today, please make sure before you leave that you like, you share, you subscribe. That way you can be notified every time I upload new content. So again, I want to appreciate, show my gratification towards each and every one of you who have been supportive of my channel and those of you who are just starting to become a part of my channel as well. So I want to move into this right along because there's definitely so much I have to cover. This is a very deep content that I'm getting ready to go into, and there's so many elements and so many layers because we're going to be talking about cultivism. So I'm gonna definitely need y'all to bear with me because I'm going to be using a lot of analogies, a lot of examples. So it's very imperative that you be able to really listen and observe because you're going to get lost in the sauce as I go more and more into the content. So I'm going to be using different examples and I'm going to be doing a lot of comparing from modern day cultivism to traditional cultivism. So like I said, you're just gonna have to really marinate with me on the content because I'm gonna be going back and forth, comparing the two. That way y'all can get an idea as to why slowly but surely social media is transforming into cultivism. Cultivism basically a form or of becoming a cult, transitioning into going from being subscribers to actual cult members and people who have the initiative motive to just become social media influencers, and how their motives from social media influencers have transitioned them into actually becoming a cult leader and obtaining cult membership based on the narratives that they are preaching and teaching and the principles that they are programming their audience, their cult members or subscribers, so called. So we're going to have all of this is going to merge, it's going to come together as we continue throughout doing this content. So again, you just have to be able to marinate because I'm going to be doing a lot of back and forth, but it's going to combine, it's going to mix, it's going to blend in together. It's all going to make perfect sense as I continue throughout as I continue to go deeper into this content. So the first thing I want to say is this particular content that I'm doing is not in reference to anybody's favorite content creator. Whether you are a fan or a follower, of certain social media influencers, whether if that influencer be a male that goes against what they perceive, um, you know, sensible or decent black women to be, nor is it against those who support um, social media influencers who also teach narratives that go against what black men are and what black men should be. So basically, I just felt it was imperative that I put this out here because it's a lot of people that are hypersensitive since the passing of Kevin Samuels. He has a lot of loyal followers. He has a lot of diehard fans that eat and breathe the ground he walks on. And because he has passed so untimely and no one expected it, especially him being at the peak of his career, his notoriety, a lot of people are really, really sensitive right now. And that's understandable when someone you love or treasure has passed on. You have people that are mourning. You have people who have expressed how much they have actually cried behind his loss. You have a lot of people in chat rooms that are arguing back and forth with one another because they feel like there's not enough people that are sensitive to the fact that Mr. Samuels has passed. So there's some people that are very hypersensitive because they feel like there's too many people that are rejoicing over his passing. And then you have another group of people who feel like once a person has passed and has deceased, you shouldn't speak ill of them at all, regardless if you was rocking with them or not. So there's so many different people that are in a different emotional state with his passing, and I respect either one. I respect if you was a fan. I respect if you was a foe. Me, I was neither one, so that's why I feel like I do have the right to give my intake as far as cultivism is concerned without in reference to him. So I'm not a friend of or a foe, so I'm not going to be against him or for him. I'm very mutual in this situation. Now, you as a receiver of this message, if you're hypersensitive or you're still grieving, you may not take this content with good intentions. You know, again, when we lose someone we love, when we lose somebody we treasured, whether it was a friend, a loved one, or in this case, social media influencer, it's very easy to get offended when somebody is going at your loved one. I remember when my brother passed, and through gun violence, and he was only 15 years old at the time. And when I lost my brother, and again, it was untimely. Only difference is he wasn't a social media influencer. This was actually my blood, my family. So of course it was natural for me, and it made more sense for me to really grieve over the loss of my brother. So during that time of the grieving, I remembered, you know, you had some kids that was pretty cruel and insensitive, and I remember when I would a couple of people knew of him, and some were not fond of him, you know, for whatever their own personal reasons, because my brother was always well dressed. He always had the latest kicks. He was very blessed and had a lot of things that a lot of kids could not afford, you know. So he had, as what they would consider today, haters, you know, people who envied the things that he had. So when he passed, and it was brought to the attention of his peers, especially those who already did not connect with him, who already did not like him. A couple of times, you know, some of these kids will say something really out of pocket about my brother, you know, basically saying, you know, he wasn't all that, you know, just saying all type of demeaning things, you know, about my brother. And whenever you lose somebody through death, no one wants to hear nothing negative. Even if it is true, no one wants to hear it. And I get it. All of us who have lost a loved one, whether it was a brother, your husband, your wife, your mama, your daddy, it don't matter if daddy used to drink alcohol and beat up on your mama. Some people in the family may look at it like, okay, he deserved to die because he was abusive. He was drinking all the time. You know, he wasn't taking care of his family. But then you're going to have others that's going to see it like, I don't care if he was an alcoholic. I don't care if he was beating up on mommy. That's still my dad. I love my dad, and I'm not going to sit up here and let y'all disgrace him in the aftermath of his death, because he's not here to defend himself. And that is the reason that it makes us more combative and defiant when we know that person is no longer here to speak their claim, to say their side of the story. That once a person has passed on, so has their voice, so has their beliefs. It has been taken with them. So when anytime you have a lot of individuals that are grieving over the loss of someone they feel is very important, people do not want to hear anything bad about that person. People feels like when it comes to death, that is the time to be sensitive. I mean, I've seen it. I've been to funerals with people who died and the family knew they was child molesters. Nobody brought up those symptoms in his obituary, or did nobody speak on it at the funeral. Okay. I've seen alcoholics who died. Nobody brought it up at the funeral. How much granddaddy used to drink. He used to drink so much to the point that where his liver gave out. That's why he died. Nobody's not going to bring that up in the funeral. Or nobody's going to bring up the fact that, you know, Miss Betty was such a whore. She was sleeping with multiple married men. You know, during the duration of her life, she has all these multiple baby daddies. Nobody's not going to bring that up. or at her funeral, or nobody's going to be that doing her eulogy, however they pronounce that. Nobody's not going to bring that up at her funeral while they are lowering her casket to the ground. It's going to always be wonderful thoughts. We're supposed to say nice things. We're supposed to be sensitive. But unfortunately, now, thanks to social media, people don't feel the need to be as sensitive anymore. And it's not just social media. You have some people who are just bold in how they feel, and they are strong in how they feel. And they're not going to allow the death of someone to make them want to say nice things. Okay, now I got to walk on eggshells and be sensitive because this person passed. And truth be told, I can respect it either way. I respect people who have enough respect to not, kick a person body down and not bring up anything negative. I mean, once a person has passed on and is no longer here and they have transitioned to be with the Lord, at this point, at least allow them to leave with their dignity, because they're not coming back. So we don't have to trash them or thrash them. But on the other hand, I also respect those who don't feel they got to be fake and phony just because someone has passed, and say, you know what, well, he was really a nice guy, and you never felt that way about them. And the problem is with social media, that's why I wanted to really hit on the subject about cultivism, because we all want to program each other's minds. We want to program each other's opinions. We want to program each other's narratives. And the truth is, you just can't. But a lot of the time, the reason why we feel like we have the advantage in programming others is because we have been programmed. Okay? We have been programmed. So therefore, we think we have that same level of power and authority to be able to program others. And when we can't program them, we're arguing with them, we're deflecting, we're tearing them down, we're bashing, the shaming tactics. We utilize all these manipulative tactics because, again, you will not co-sign with me. You would not agree with what I feel and what I want. And the moment that we do not partake or participate in each other's emotions or feelings or narratives, then it's this concept: you're a hater, or you're an underachiever. This where the attacking, the shaming tactics, the name calling, the immaturity starts to take over, because so many people are angry that I want you to sympathize like I sympathize. I want you to have compassion like I have compassion. I want you to have love for this person like I have for this person. And we want to use death as an excuse to overshadow emotions and feelings. And the truth is, even though some people feel we should be more sensitive to people in their passing, and the truth is, nobody has to. Nobody has to. No different than the day the Lord calls me home. There's going to be some people that are going to miss me. And there's going to be others that are going to be like, you know what? I'm glad she gone. Guess what? I'm dead and gone. I ain't nothing I can do. If me living, if what I did in my life as a living human being wasn't enough to convince you that I would have had a significance in your life, it's damn sure not going to change after death. It's definitely not going to change. So a lot of people need to get off their high horse and stop thinking because a person has such high notoriety and has had such a significant influence that everybody has to submit to that. Everybody has to be humble to that. No one has to be humble to anyone. No one owes anybody anything. It's as simple as that. And once grown men and grown women start understanding that, we won't have so much of this combativeness, this chat room combat that's constantly going on. Now we're at a new state of an emergency. We have a new casualty of war, and nobody's man enough or woman enough to back down and say, you know what, I can't convince these people to love him or respect him, so I'ma just love him and respect him in my own way. Or women, you know what, I can't get people to hate him or not respect him like I do, so let me just disrespect and hate on my own. Everybody just needs to stay in their own lane. And it's only human nature, because again, people just have to have a say in everything. And it comes a point where we have to realize your say is not going to always be valid to other people. The quicker you understand that, the less drama you create for yourself going back and forth with people. So let me just start off by saying that my content is not a reference to anybody's godfather, to anybody's favorite social media influencer or community leader, black YouTube sector, social commentator, whatever. It's not in reference to feminist, anti-mammy, teachers of the bitter sisterhood, whatever y'all want to call it. I'm not in the business of going against anybody. You take it for what it's worth. It's up to you as the receiver of my message. You apply it the way that you feel is best. Some of y'all are still grieving. Y'all are in a lot of pain. So it don't matter if I say something good and nice. You still going to come in here with your negative energy because you're grieving. I get it. You lost somebody very important in your life. So sometimes you have to shut down the computer, get off the keyboard and take time to heal off online, because going back and forth and arguing people is not helping you to heal. If anything, it's making you more angry and more bitter and more resentful, because you're in the process of grieving and you're healing, and then you're arguing with other people. That's not helping you to heal. I really wish a lot of these men and women would just step down, whether you're a content creator or subscriber. Go and heal. Then when your energy has changed and gotten better, you come back, you can handle the attacks. You can handle those who come at you, who you support. You can handle those who come at you, who don't support what you support, in a graceful manner. So nevertheless, I want to talk about cultivism, the social media cult culture. Because despite what many may not want to believe, and this is just my personal opinion, I'm no expert. I don't have degrees from Harvard, although I do have several degrees. I do have 2 master's degrees, one in psychology and another one in criminal justice and, human services. So I got a little something, something, that gives me some type of reference that I know what I'm talking about. Not only that, I have the experience dealing with inmates, working within the law enforcement. Not only that, I come from a family where my family is stable. I had a father in my life, my biological father, my stepfather, my mom, my stepmom. So I never came to social media as a place to look for love, as a place to seek somebody as a father figure or a mother figure. I already had that in my life, praise God. I already had parents who taught me about life, who taught me wisdom and knowledge, and they gave me their knowledge based on their personal experiences, whether if it's been good or bad. So I've never been a big time fan of anybody on social media. No one, I didn't seek for anybody to be my feminist mother, or like I said, or a godfather, I just didn't seek for anybody to teach me anything, because I already been taught everything I needed to know. I already had family that was there for me. So I didn't have daddy issues or mommy issues. I already had stable people in my life. And I feel if more people had stable people in their life, they wouldn't be so hell-bent and bent out of shape about people not honoring who they honor, or people not supporting who they're supporting. My support comes from my bloodline. I have a bomb relationship with both of my dads. I have an awesome relationship with my biological mother and my stepmoms. I got great grandparents. A lot of them passed on, so I was given a lot of wisdom and knowledge from family since I've been a little old girl. So I never been hungry for anybody's knowledge on here. Now I will listen, and I don't mind, observing, but I never been one to absorb too strongly other people's opinions, even if it suited my narratives, because I know that A lot of times we focus on the message instead of the messenger. And that's why we're going to go into this cult thing, because it's a lot of demons. It's a lot of personal struggles that those who are leading the flock with is also contaminating, and they're passing that same spiritual demonic hindrance into those that follow them. And if you do not have spiritual discernment, you will not think that you are being misled into a demonic path, that you're not being led into a path of destruction. But again, it takes having spiritual awareness and spiritual discernment to know that you do not always have to follow the crowd. Just because 100 people is going left, you know you're supposed to go right. But because you lack confidence and you lack spiritual awareness, you're going to go where the crowd is, because you're so afraid, you have so many insecurities and you don't have any confidence. You're afraid that if you go right, even though you know that's the right way, you're afraid that you're going to lose your validation. People are going to look at you in a different light or whatever. So you just follow the crowd. Even if it's wrong, you don't want to be left out. You want to be able to feel like you're being validated by following the crowd. So we're going to talk about this social media cultivism. So as we really go into it, I first want us to understand what's the definition of cult and cultivism, so we can have some clear. Now, the first thing I want to do is I wanted to discuss what is cultism. I didn't mean to say cultivism, cultism. We're first going to break down the different elements. And this is why I'm going to definitely need everybody's undivided attention. I'm going to end up breaking this into different series, because it's just too much to cover to squeeze it all in one recipe. And I know a lot of us, we have a short attention span. We can get lost after listening to a message for like 30 minutes, and we just kind of, our brain starts to flatline, beep. So I'm going to squeeze as much as I can in an hour and make that my part one. And if I have to continue, I'll do 2, 3, and 4, because I don't want to overflood your brain. I don't want to clog your brain up like a toilet. So we're going to take baby steps. Now, the first step is, first of all, what is cultivism? Because in order for me to make y'all understand how social media has become the modern cult, the modern cultism, you first have to understand what cultism consists of. Cultism, the definition states, is the activity of worshiping, devotion to the doctrine or occult, or to the practices of a cult. Idolatry, devotion, veneration. Now, as it states, the activity of worship and devotion to the doctrine or occult. Okay, we got to define what's a cult. Now, before we go into defining what's a cult, first of all, when we hear the word cult, we automatically, I know a lot of y'all are probably going back into the 50s or the 60s, whatever time during the era of Ku Klux Klans or the Aryan Hood, or all of these different type of cults that basically did a lot of violent and destructive things. Polygamous cults, yeah. Racist cults, terrorist cults, destructive cults. Okay, that gives me an idea of the different type of cults. Now, when we hear cults, like I stated, we automatically think of a group of people who come together only to terrorize and attack people who oppose the opposite of their views. Rather, the cult is basically a social group that's defined by its unusual religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs. It's a common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal. So, in other words, cult does not just have to be religious, guys, ladies. It's not just a religious thing. It's just not a racist thing with the Ku Klux Klan. Because I know a lot of y'all, that's what y'all want to think. That's why a lot of y'all may feel like I'm not using an appropriate word. but I am, because it's not just religious, it's not just race. It is also a group that shares the same philosophical beliefs, or they just all have a belief in one particular narrative, or they all have a particular belief in reaching a same common goal. So it does not necessarily have to be, any group that's doing extreme things like wearing white sheets and burning down crosses, or religious groups that sacrificing animals and drinking blood from an ox and things of that nature. I know when y'all think of cult, this is the things that are perceived in your mind, like it's something very graphic, it's something very extreme, it's something that requires a lot of unrealistic behavior. Some even consider cults as being satanic or demonic. It's so many misconceptions about what is considered as a cult. And it's far from beyond that. It does not have to be a group of people that go around killing people, go around religious, got people, a bunch of women dressing funny, dressing like, they're from the 50s and the 60s, and the male leaders are still dressing like they from the 50s or 60s. I forgot what they call these type of people. Who dress in that manner. It'll come to me sooner than later. But it's a false misconception. Cults do not have to be social groups that are just religious or spiritual. It could just be psychological. It could also be logical. Y'all both share the same common beliefs about women. Y'all both share the group shares the same common beliefs about men. It does not have to be anything just racial or religious or spiritual. So that's the first thing I want y'all to deprogram out your mind. Okay. Okay, yeah, I found a group. I had to think for a minute. Amish. So you also have these Amish, type of spiritual group that a lot of people may consider a cult, because they dress funny, they look different, they don't use electricity. So it's different misconceptions of cults, and that's what I want y'all to understand. So that takes care of the first point I wanted to make. Do not assume that cults are just um a group of people that only come together because they all uh have that same religion, or they all are a group that hates a certain race of people, so they all come together just so they can divide and conquer the race of other people. Or don't think that it has anything to do with just like weird, with weird type of sacrifices, like having to sacrifice animals or sacrifice children. Or again, some of these cults are demonic, in which they are antichrist. They A group of people who come together to basically go against the word of God, to go against those who preach the narratives of Christianity. So it's so many different levels. So anyway, that's the first thing. All right. So now that we got that out the way, um, it brings me back to the point in which I wanted to discuss again what is consistent of being a cult member and a cult leader. Since now that we have that understanding of what a cult, what defines a cult, and the different narratives, the misconceptions of what people perceive to be a cult. Excuse me, y'all, I know my words are jumbled up all over the place today, but I'm trying to make sure I get all my thoughts out. So a cult is most commonly thought of as a religious group. with a charismatic leader. So that brings me to my next point. I want for people to understand the characteristics of a cult leader. What are the characteristics? Because truth be told, everyone does not have the power to lead. Everyone does not have the power to influence. It takes certain individuals with a special gift that has that type of finesse to make people lead. So we're going to now go in and discuss the characteristics of a cult leader. What is it that they do? What is it about them? What is so appealing about them, in which people are easily able to follow them, be brainwashed, be influenced, be manipulated? What are the qualities of these wonderful cult leaders, which we dress up and call social media influencers? Now, keep in mind, nobody hardly uses the word cult anymore, or cult leaders. You think about it, you rarely hear that word, okay? Now they are finessing it and calling it something different. They don't call these cult groups. Let me stop the cult group and then let me go back to the cult group and then I'll go back to the cult leader. They don't call cult groups cults anymore, because this is another part that I almost forgot to address. Cult groups now are called spiritual healers. They're called you know, spiritual groups, or groups for that groups of healing, spiritual healing, self-healing, groups that teach you how to connect with the earth, groups that teach you how to be able to connect with self through the earth and through the world, versus trying to connect with other people. Other words, they're not going to tell you the real purpose of what they do to draw certain people in, to get certain people to follow them. They're going to try to finesse the objective of or the mission. They're not going to be honest about the mission. It's a lot of groups that are coming out now claiming to be spiritual healers. It's a lot of that going on. Spiritual guiders, spiritual influencers. It's a lot of that going on. And if you are not woke and you don't have a mind of your own and you lack spiritual discernment, you will easily be led into these type of groups, because again, their name does not sound intimidating. Their mission does not sound intimidating. If their mission is to help you connect with the earth, you don't consider that a threat. If their mission is to help you heal from your pain, and if you're a person that's struggling with healing from your pain, you're going to follow that group, because again, you're thinking about the mission. But the mission and a motive is not the same. The mission is what they try to convince you to make you believe what it is, versus their motive, what they know it really is. So keep in mind, mission and motive is not the same thing. Of course, these so-called spiritual leaders or influential leaders, they are really modern cult leaders. These spiritual groups, social media groups, these platforms, these social media groups who collaborate together. Of course, they're not going to verbalize that they are virtual cults. Of course, they're going to call themselves different names. They're going to dress up the names to their platform. Well, we are the Avengers, or we are the spiritual challengers, or we're all for women, we're all for men. Our mission is to build the confidence of Black men, or our objective is to build the confidence of Black women so they don't feel codependent on Black men. See, All of these things sound wonderful the way it's being phrased. But if people really knew the real motives behind it, they will see that the mission and the phrase and the name of these platforms, these groups or whatever, are the total opposite of the motives in which they are pushing these narratives. Okay, so keep in mind that they don't consider themselves cults. They have found a way to abandon that word because they want to earn followers. They want to earn members. So they're not going to run you off by really giving you the blatant labels of what they really represent, and a lot of these things you're not going to find out. You're not going to really find out the motives till you get really deeply involved, or by then you have become so brainwashed that even when you see what they're teaching is not lining up with what they first made you believe the initiation of their spiritual group was, you may be too brainwashed by then to pick up on things not adding up. So it's either going to be one or the other. You're going to find out when you get deeply involved, like, nah, these people, they're not influencing me. They're not leading me. They're trying to program my views and program my mind into a toxic mindset. Or again, you've already been so brainwashed and you're already fully mentally programmed. So even if you see things that are out of alignment, you're either going to not say anything because you want to be in the good graces of your cult leader, or you're going to learn how to make it make sense in your own mind, even if it means lying to yourself. There's that spiritual part that's battling with that demonic part. It's that spiritual part that's telling you, this is not right. This is not adding up. I really don't feel this way, or this is making me feel out of my element. But it's that demonic part that's saying no. It's going at war. Your demonic sense is constantly at war with your spiritual sense. That's where that spiritual warfare is coming from, because you have your spiritual sense telling you you don't need to follow these people. You need to follow your own mind. But it's that spirit, that demonic warfare that also steps in and intercedes and says, no, people just don't want you to be great. Once you leave this organization, or once you stop, uh, you know, um, um, believing in these principles or these narratives that we have instilled in you, you're weak because you're allowing the spiritual side of you to tell you that this is demonic side. So again, your spiritual and your demonic is going to constantly be at war, going back and forth with one another. Okay, because again, you can't serve two masters. You're either going to serve one or serve the other. It's just as simple as that. So, as I stated, they're going to finesse the real purpose of their group. Okay, they're going to call it all these wonderful names: spiritual advisors, spiritual leaders, spiritual healers, mother of the earth, father of the earth, or in a sense, since we're into social media cult, they're going to promote narratives that appear, that seem to be in the best interest of Black men who are struggling with healing, and in the best interest of Black women who are also struggling with healing. And guess what? These days, it don't take much to get broken people who already lack confidence, who already lack certainties of themselves, to become fully invested in these type of groups. But we'll get to that later when we talk about the characteristics of cult members, because we're going to get on these subscribers, we're going to get on these donators, we're going to talk very deep. We're going to get on them if I have enough time and I don't burn y'all brains out too far ahead in the game. All right, so U-turning, that is the same way cult leaders work. They're not called cult leaders. They're called social media influencers. Um, they're called other prominent influential names like I said, community leaders, spiritual leaders, dating experts, um, dating coach expertise, you know, even female content creators, psychologists in relationships or relationship experts or empowerment for women, your empowerment social media influencers for women. You know, they come up with these long, you know, extravagant names just so you can be deceived by the message, because you're looking at the name. So if you hear, okay, a spiritual leader of the empowerment of women, as a woman, you're going to automatically you're going to gravitate towards that, because you're looking at what the platform says is built upon, or what the messenger who's over that platform says that the platform is built upon. And if you're not woke, you really think that you're being programmed as a woman to build your self-esteem, to build your confidence, because again, it's that word empowerment. So you're thinking that it's teaching you how to feel empowered as a woman, when really these particular individuals are actually helping you build more anger and hostility towards men, which is the reason why you really not healing like you think you are. You know, because anytime you come into contact with a black man and he says something to you, you throwing shots at him, you lashing out on them, you disrespecting them, because again, this group has not really taught you empowerment. If anything, it taught you how to enhance your bitterness by making you perceive it as gaining power. But you're not really gaining power, because you're still not getting black men to respect you. You're still not getting man to marry you, or men to take you serious, or however. And you know, again, it's not throwing shots at anybody. And no different than you have a lot of these, you know, social media modern cult leaders who consider themselves to be dating coaches, coach experts, relationship experts, and they will make you feel that their intentions is to make you see your worth as a black man, and to make you perceive yourself as not lowering your standards to appease to certain women. And actuality, it's not even so much about building your confidence. It's about building their platform. It's about building their bank accounts. And it's a lot of cult leaders, even the ones like Jim Jones. That's what he did. And we're going to use him as an example throughout this video. He was a cult leader who definitely did that. A lot of these cult leaders are these new social media modern cult leaders. You know, they know how to target the weaknesses of certain groups of people. Black men and black women, we all are broken in our own way. So not just black people, you have people of all type of races that are broken, or are dealing with some type of psychological or emotional struggle. So people look for a place to belong. People look for a place to seek and go healing. And if it takes partaking in these modern social media chat rooms that's promoting these narratives, that's helping us to build our confidence by telling us we're worthy, we don't have to respect the opposite gender. And instead of us utilizing that to better ourselves, we'll use these narratives that are being preached, and we'll use them to weaponize our truth against other people. We do a lot of deflecting. We do a lot of shaming tactics, but we'll talk more about that as we go into it. So let's talk about the cult leaders' characteristics. Usually a cult leader, or modern social media cult leader, is a person of tremendous charisma who makes followers feel loved and accepted. Now, I want to pump the brakes on this. Everybody does not have that charisma. They don't have that personality to draw people to them. Some people just have that magnetic personality. You have some men, they can automatically get the attention of women just having the personality, knowing how to talk to a woman, knowing how to compliment a woman, knowing what to say to get that woman's attention. Then you have other guys who don't have that level of confidence, who really don't know how to talk to women, who really don't uh have that dignity in being able to approach women. So they feel like they have to dress the part. They got to wear designer label suits, designer label clothes, drive a certain car. They have to have materialistic things to make themselves appealing to women because they lack the confidence just being able to get a woman's attention wearing a Walmart shirt and driving a 2015 Toyota Camry. So here it is, the inconfident man. He uses materialistic things, and you have the man who has plenty of confidence. He doesn't feel he has to pull up and you know, with the 2022 Lexus to get a woman to notice them. You just have some people who have that natural charisma. They got that swag, as they would call it today. They got that appeal. They make people drawn to them. Now, certain people have that certain charisma that draws people to them. They know how to talk well. They know how to dress well. And they know how to make people feel loved and accepted. And even if it means tearing down another group of people to make them feel confident, that's what they're going to do. Think about it. That's what the Ku Klux Klans did. That's why I said social media is the new modern cultism. Because if you think about it, that is what the Ku Klux Klan did. They built up the white race based on attacking or dismantling and putting down the black race. They couldn't just make themselves confidence by just preaching confidence. No, they couldn't just help white people feel superior, like they still had, you know, leadership, you know, based on what society made them believe at that point. That wasn't enough. They didn't feel empowered unless they destroyed something in the process of that. And what happened was our ancestors was destroyed in the process of that. They couldn't just build each other up by, you know, having high self-esteem ceremonies, events in which they could come together and make and start businesses, or, you know, or start new community movements in which their race could continue to keep building. That was not enough. No, we got to destroy. Meaning we got to burn down churches. We got to run, you know, black folks out the neighborhood, even if they were given a collect 200 pass gold freedom slip card. We still want to make them feel uncomfortable. We still don't want them to believe they're on our level. So what we're going to do is, in order for us to stay up, we got to keep tearing them down. And that is the same way these social media cult leaders operate. They don't know how to just make their group of people feel good, build their group of people confidence. They got to tear down another group of people to help to promote that. And this is why I said it takes certain individuals to be cult leaders. They have that charisma to make people feel loved and accepted. And a lot of these social media influencers have learned the key ingredient. The only way I can make my audience feel like I got their best interest, that I have the best interest of black men, or I have the best interest for black women, I got to tear down something that is the opposite of what we are. Me just helping them to build on themselves is not enough. I have to destroy. I have to take the underdog or make them believe that they're more superior than these women or than these men or these white people, these black people, whatever the case is. That is the new ingredient. And that has been, I'm noticing, is an ongoing trend in the black community sector. They can't just get together and do something. They can't do these panels and platforms and help black men and black women build themselves just off the strength of that. No, we got to talk trash and bash and put down this group of people. That's how we build our empowerment. The social media cult leader knows that. They know that's the secret ingredient. If I want people to feel loved and accepted, I got to tear down another group of people that is the exact opposite of what they are. This is just a cult leader strategy. Cult leader strategy. Okay. It's often suggested that cult leaders use brainwashing tactics to attract and keep followers. In many instances, cult members deeply identify with and admire their leader. Fostering feelings of belonging. We are at a state of an emergency in which supporting social media influencers was one thing. Supporting, joining, listening, donating. Those were the usual objectives of following a social media influencer. But now it's come beyond, it's far beyond support. It's far beyond following. It has reached a new level, which now has entailed into worshiping. It's one thing to follow someone, meaning you have joined their platform and their channel, you listen to their content, you enjoy the content, you take it for what it's worth, and you leave it at that. It was more so just entertainment. But now it's on a whole new level. We've gone from following to supporting to worshiping, which brings me to my next definition. What is worshiping? What's worshiping? Let me get the definition of that. Because again, I want y'all to really marinate on this content. So what does it mean to worship? To worship is to show a lot of love and adoration for something. Religious believers worship God, and people can worship other people and things too. Worship is an extreme form of love. It's an extreme. A feeling of profound love and admiration. Love unquestioningly and uncritically or to excess. Basically, when you get into that realm of worship, like religiously, they tell you part of living in Christianity is giving worship and praise to God because He's your most high. And that is what a lot of these cult members, meaning subscribers or members that follow these social media cult leaders, you basically have so much admiration, you perceive them as God. And when you start perceiving people as God, you feel like they cannot do no wrong. In a sense, it's almost like as if you are placing them on a pedestal, like they are perfect, and you pretty much idolize them. Worship eventually leads to idolization, idolizing. And how you know it's leading to that is because it's one thing when people don't get attacked and get ridiculed because they don't follow specific individuals. But when it's getting to the point that individuals can't, that when, if it gets to a point where people cannot have an individual opinion without being attacked, without being disrespected, those who are being attacked and disrespected and degraded simply based on opinion, simply based on differences, simply based on just not having the same common interests in certain individuals, when it gets to the point where people are getting disrespected, getting cursed out, getting dragged through the mud, but simply over a difference in opinion, whether you feel that person's opinion was disrespectful or not. When it gets to the point disrespect has fully activated, you have reached the destination of cultism. No one should be getting that angry over a difference in opinion. Not to the point where you're going back and forth, you're arguing with other people who do not support what you support, because now it has become idolization. Worshiping leads to idolizing. You worship something long enough and strong enough, you will idolize it. You will make it your God. And when you make something your God, because we know God, that's as perfect as it can get. Now, I'm sure some of you not religious and don't look at it that way, but just look at the logics of what I'm saying. Don't just pick out the parts you trying to find something to disagree with. But when you start attacking people who do see some faults, some flaws, you are idolizing. Because guess what? None of us in this piece is perfect. None of us ain't flawless. You might have a few people that listen to Mocha and some people who don't. Now, you can't get mad because there's other subscribers that say, I don't rock with Mocha. I don't listen to her. She doesn't speak about the narratives I feel is important. Now, because a person does not rock with me, that does not mean they see less value in me. They just don't have my same common logics. We don't have the same narratives. You have grown men and grown women that are literally dragging each other through the mud only because there's a difference in opinion. If somebody says, I don't listen to this gentleman, you have grown men who just lose it. They go overboard. Same thing with women. If I say I don't listen to the certain female content creator, I don't rock with her, I think her content is degrading, they're going to call me all the mammies. They're going to say I'm dick riding. That's where this is where we are. It's called idolization. Nobody cannot like what you like without you being disrespectful. Now think about it. If I like donuts and you like pastries, we ain't gonna argue about that because, you know, we respect each other's difference in opinion. That same concept, for whatever reason, we just cannot utilize that same concept when it comes to who we have a difference in opinion with as far as who we listen to. You will have people who will unsubscribe from you. I know if I even mention certain people who I do listen to, y'all will unsubscribe from me just based on the fact that I listen to these people and y'all don't, which is very childish. Couple of times, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen my content creators, y'all hang out in spaces with people I wouldn't even dare hang out in. But I'm not going to take your wrench or unsubscribe from you, long as you're not bringing that energy to my channel because you're rocking with this person. You're trying to push their narratives on me. I can care less. Enjoy. I feel like there's enough bread out there for everybody. Y'all can rock with Mocha, then 1 minute rock with this person, then rock with that person. And I'm not going to feel no type of ways because I don't want you to worship me. I don't want you idolizing me. People worship and idolize us because, you know, they only want that one person to be able to have a certain level of influence. The moment you listening to other people, they consider you fake. They consider you not being true because you're not willing to let one person fully have access to your philosophies, to your mind. So this is that cultism, that cultism concept that is slowly but surely taking over the YouTube streets. You have people getting an attitude because you rock with people that they wouldn't dare rock with. They see you in chat rooms with people they wouldn't dare be in a chat room with. And because one minute they see you in this chat room, then they see you in somebody else's chat room, they want to call you out on it. They want to say, oh, well, you ain't real. Why you was rocking over here, but you rocking over there? It's not about being real. It's not about being loyal. That is that cultism narrative that y'all trying to push. Y'all want certain people to only cater for certain content creators because y'all know once people start branching out and going to other content creators who can give them a different perspective, your word, your narrative, your message is not going to hold a lot of weight once people start seeking different narratives. Once you broaden your horizons, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. People, especially these cult leaders, these cult members, these social media cult leaders and cult members, they hate when you don't put all of your hope into the one individual they want you to put your hope in. Because once you broaden your horizons, what happens? Your mindset changes. Your philosophy changes. And guess what? Once your philosophy and your concepts and your narratives change, you know what you're going to be told? You're going to be told you're phony. You're going to be told you're not a real man. You're going to be told you're a simp. You're going to be called a mammy. They're going to call you a dick rider. Long as you're co-signing on their narratives and their narratives only, that's when you get the props of the validation of being real. That's why you have a lot of people, they rather just stay in one toxic space because they don't have enough confidence to go to other channels and check out other content creators because they don't want to be not loved and not accepted. Just like their favorite social media cult leaders. So let me get back into this. I want to go more into talking about the characteristics of a cult leader. So let's get into these characteristics. Let's break down the elements of the characteristics of what is perceived as a social media cultism. So one of the things is that the group is focused on a living leader to whom members seem to display excessively zealous or unquestioning commitment. The next thing is the group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. I would like to reiterate on this. The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members because a lot of these social media influencers, they have found out the key ingredient. Believe it or not, a lot of these social media influencers, which I consider to be the modern cult leaders of social media cult leaders, a lot of them initially started off with their content being about one specific thing, which is how they initially gained their audience. They spoke on something that grabbed the attention of a specific group of individuals. But what tends to happen over time, once they have been in the game of being a content creator, they start to notice and observe how other content creators' channels are growing so quickly and more effectively. And it starts to make them question if what they're doing their platform upon is really putting them in a good position or not. And in many cases, a lot of these content creators, they start to find out the key ingredient is that If I want to keep bringing in new members, I have to tell the crowd what they want to hear. I have to serve the community what they want to hear. So even though I may have initially started off my platform speaking on this specific topic of this specific issue, I'm not gaining the popularity that I want compared to what these other content creators are doing. I noticed their channels are going great. So I'm going to have to change my narratives. And if this means pissing off the people who originally followed with me because I wasn't speaking on that, then so be it. I'm looking at the big picture. I'm looking at getting more cash apps. I'm looking at getting more notoriety. So if I got to piss off my original supporters or my loyal members just so I can gain the likes and the admiration of other members who are not as loyal to me, but because I'm speaking on what they want me to speak on, as long as I can gain their attention and gain their membership, then if I got to flip the script and if I got to keep beating this dead horse and brutally keep speaking on these specific group of people, if that's what's going to help to elevate my career, if that's what's going to help to elevate my platform, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't care what other L's or who's going to fall off at the wayside for me to get there. I don't care if I have to start off on other people's panels and leave their panels and start my own. I'm going to do what I got to do to bring in my new members. So this is what the social media modern cult leader, this is what he or she does. They got to bring in new members. If it takes folding on the loyal crowd, even though their original audience was more loyal, but loyalty does not always bring in profits. So you have a lot of content creators, they are willing to flip the script and pretend to be something they're not, or pretend to speak on things they normally would not speak on. They will speak on things they initially did not start their channel on speaking upon, all because at this point they want to earn the profits. They want to earn the profits like the other content creators. Listen, it's like if you starting your own little restaurant inside a food court at the mall. Let's say you start off something simple. You just selling pizza. All the teenagers come to you buying slices of pizza. You got people who come to you buying slices of pizza. Everything's good. Everybody's liking your food based on what you were serving for your little establishment. But once other people start coming in and they're serving foods that are different from pizza, they're serving Jamaican food, they're serving Italian food. You know, all of these other restaurants are doing something totally different. Now, you're not getting a lot of customers. Everybody's not buying your slice of pizza anymore. They see your pizza as a generic type of food. It's just something simple. You're seeing everybody standing in line with a Jamaican food is. Everybody standing in line with Italian food is. Everybody standing in line with a cheesesteak Phillies are. Eventually, you're going to have to tell yourself, I got to switch up what I'm doing. Even though I'm good at serving pizza, and I did initially get a lot of customers at first serving pizza, nobody's not checking for my pizza anymore. So what you're going to do, you're going to switch the game. And if it means pissing off your loyal customers who would loyally come to your little pizza joint, buy slices of pizza from you every day, you're willing to do that. Okay? Questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or even punished. In other words, social media cult leaders, they will not let anybody into their tribe who's going to go against their narratives, who's going to question their narratives, who are going to try to discourage other members from believing in their narratives. The moment the social media cult leader gets any incentive that you're trying to come in his space or his platform and you're trying to persuade his people to not believe in his narratives or her narratives, they're going to give you the boot. But what has happened now, thanks to YouTube, they have given them this special feature known as members only, okay, which a lot of people try to use the excuse of, well, that's to keep trolls out and this and that, and that's to keep people from coming in and doing this and that. You know, I'm sure that's true, but the majority of it is the truth is that the social media cult leader wants to be the only ones to influence his audience. He does not want anybody else coming in sharing different ideas, sharing different narratives, because what happens when people start sharing different narratives, it starts to taint the narratives that he's preaching. And when you start tainting, that's when you start losing audience. When you have somebody, especially somebody who's just as charismatic as the leader, and they're coming in that chat room and they're saying, well, this is what I believe, this is how I feel. All it takes is one or two to say, you know what, you got a point there. Those three that have a difference in opinion, they have already become a threat to the social media modern cult leader. And what he's going to do, he's going to evict it. So they done got smart now. They're doing memberships. They're making sure only people who agree, only people who follow their principles, only people who believe and share and adopt their philosophies. The membership feature has it to where those are the only people that are allowed to gain access. In other words, people who possibly may have a better insight or a different insight, they are not allowed to come into these spaces and share that. If so, they will be abolished. So they done got smart now. They do the members only. And of course, if you're a member, you're paying out of your account every month to be a member, whether if it's $3, $2, whatever. So anytime somebody's paying for something, very rarely are they going to go against the grain, because they're already investing. They're tithing. That's like being a member of a church and you're tithing into this congregation. So because you put money into it, you're less liable to leave, even if you've reached a point in which you realize the content is not good, or that social media modern cult leader is you're seeing them flip flop a little bit. You're seeing that leader get beside himself to where he's talking to you as well as other paid subscribers all kind of way. A lot of y'all are going to stay and take the abuse because you're already invested, or you don't want to seem weak. It's like being in an abusive marriage. You have a woman who don't want to leave her no good ass husband that's beating on her, because in the beginning he did so much for her. He made her feel good. He made her feel so welcome. But now he done got so comfortable by her presence, and he just knows she ain't going nowhere because she done invested 5-6 years of time into him. So now he done got comfortable. He could flip the script now. What initially got you to become a member, now he's speaking or she's speaking different narratives, and you are afraid, to jump ship because you still feel like you are obligated to this person because you've already put so much money into them. So that's another thing. Another social media modern and cult leader does is they do a lot of mind numbing techniques. Mind numbing. And we'll go into that. I'll probably do a part 2 on that. So I'm gonna save that. The leadership dictates sometimes in great detail how members should act, think, and feel. For example, members must get permission. Members must not feel, that they should have to dress a certain way. They need to make a certain amount of income. They need to be married or not married. They may even prescribe what type of clothes you should wear, where to live, how to discipline your children, how to deal with your spouses, and etc. This is that cultism. This is what a lot of these social media, these modern social media influencers, cult leaders, this is what they're doing. They're telling people it's one thing to give advice, but now you have these men and you have these women that's telling you how you should dress, how you should look. Making you feel as if how you look and how you dress is not your key to success. The group has the social media cult leader has basically influenced his group into having a polarized has a polarized us versus them mentality. Polarize us versus them. That is what leaders do. Leaders, these cult leaders, these social media modern cult leaders, and I'm gonna be saying this backwards plenty of times, y'all. So it is what it is, but y'all get my drift. Their main objective is to conquer and divide. It's the us versus them. That is what they strive on. Consequently, people prefer to associate with those who are similar over those who are different. Preventionally allocate resources to similar others and hold more positive beliefs about similar others. The tendencies of individuals to view the social world in terms of an in-group us versus the out-group. You place yourself in one group and you're perceived enemy in an alternative group. Then you tell yourself that the group you're in is better and the other group is the one causing problems. For example, the us against them mentality can take on a role in work life. It's so many levels of the us versus them mentality. It's different categories. Race, religion, location, social class. When you do this, it causes you to pretty much try to differentiate how you fit into a varying social situation. Anytime, let's get further into this, the ways we use the us against them. Anytime you feel threatened by something, you want to feel superior, stronger, and better than what you are up against. You want to feel better about yourself. Categorizing people isn't necessarily a bad thing until you use these categories to exclude people, even without meaning to. You place yourself in a group and your perceived enemy is in an alternative group. Then you tell yourself that that group you're in is better and the other group is the one causing the problems. For example, the us against them mentality can take on a role at your job, your work life. You may feel like it's us against them when it comes to regular employees versus management. You see the two categories of employees as rivals instead of teammates. And there's a downfall of the us against them mentality. It's actually very dangerous. And this has been spread in the Black YouTube sector like cancer. You subconsciously use that thought pattern to help yourself feel more at ease, but it often causes you to make decisions based on subconscious discrimination instead of leaving room for understanding and growth. Once you subconsciously figure out who is in your group, you tend to be more forgiving of those people. Other words, I see that a lot on YouTube. We always give a pass to people who at least share our ideologies. But people who don't share our ideologies, oh, ain't no forgiveness, ain't none. That's why I know that certain women could get away with being disrespectful to certain men, and some of the guys may not check that female on it because she has proven that she is still a part of them. She still believes in their narratives. So he's not going to check her as strongly as long as she's shown some type of loyalty that she is for his narratives. Now, if it's another female that is totally against the narratives and she has anything to say, all hell gonna break loose. And the same thing goes for men. If they are against a certain female content creator and they have an opinion about it, if he's always shown from the jump that he's always been anti-feminist, even if he says something that logically makes perfect sense, his ideas are going to be shut down immediately because he never had that I'm down with them. He always had that us versus them. So anytime you initially start off where you are against a certain group and you want to have an opinion, you're going to automatically get shot down. You have to have proven that you already have some type of loyalty or at least understanding. And as long as you've been consistent with that, you'll be given a pass. And it is what it is. So I going back, I want to get more into this more about these different characteristics. I know it's a lot that's entailed with that, and I want to go back to more talking about the characteristics of the actual leader, because I think I've addressed a good bit about the group, what forms a social media cultism, a cult group. I want to get more so into the details of the leader. Let's talk about the leader. The group is led by one. This is when you know there's definitely some areas of concern when it comes to these social media modern cults. The group is led by one or a few individuals that are charismatic, determined, and domineering. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you have to have that certain sauce. You have to have that certain characteristic in order to lead a large group of people. 9 times out of 10, this individual, for the most part, he or she is going to be by herself. Very rarely, they're going to have a group of people with them, because that's helping them, or if they do have a group of people who do support them, they're not going to do too many projects with them. They're going to do individual projects, because one thing about these modern social media influencers, they are very self-absorbed. They don't want too many people sharing the wealth. In other words, even if you are down with these type of individuals and you believe in their ideologies and you support their ideologies, it does not mean that they're going to put you on. It does not mean they're going to bring you in, because they want to have full control. And do I blame them? No, I don't, in a sense. If you want your channel to grow, you want your platform to progress, sometimes especially in this day and age, it is better to to go solo, to do your platform alone, unless you know you got some down people. But it's very risque these days, because people flip-flop so much, and you have people in your own camp that be low-key hating. They can't really genuinely feel happy for you when your channel is growing or you're doing really good. Some of them just really don't have that real loyalty. There's going to always be that low-key jealousy involved. So a lot, the modern social media cult leader, if he's a wise man, most of the time he's going to do it by himself, because again, he does not, it's various reasons. A lot of these cult leaders, the reason why they don't bring people onto their platforms or panels and things of that nature, because if something happens, they want to lessen the chances of exposure. A lot of content creators are rolling solo, because as you can see, we've been seeing all the YouTube beefs, and we've been seeing all the panel explosions, how when people get upset or people fall out, they airing each other's dirty laundry, they telling everything, they exploiting people. Yeah, when I used to do panels with that chick, I found out she had three different baby daddies, and she telling black women they don't need to be getting pregnant by all these multiple men. All of a sudden, these same people that was down by law, these same people who supported each other's narratives, these same people who acted like they were so down by law, soon as there's a division in the panel, they're exploiting each other. They're in each other's dirty laundry. So the modern cult leader, he realizes in order for his channel to grow and to be successful, he has to be a one-man man, because he has less of a threat to worry about. It is less chances of you having to kiss somebody's ass when you've been basically conducting this whole train on your own. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry about later on if you and this person fall out. They're creating problems for you. They're trying to take subscribers away from you. They're on their platform talking mess about you. See, when a lot of modern cult leaders, especially in this social media world, they realize the key ingredient. If I want my channel to grow, I got to be by myself. I don't want anybody sharing my secrets later. I don't want anybody coming out later about, well, they knew this about me and know that about me because I kicked them off my platform on my panel. So, you know, I don't have to worry about that. So in a sense, that's wise. Most of the time they want to do all the leading by themselves. It's good, but then it's bad because when they get out of pocket, you know, there's no one there to balance them, to let them know, wait a minute, bro, you saying too much. Or wait a minute, sis, hold on now. Is that for everybody or for certain people? And that's the thing. The modern social media cult leader, he wants full control. He or she wants full control. They don't want other people on the panel telling him and her where they're going wrong, what they need to do. So that's their way of protecting their brand and limiting themselves from exposure in the event that there are differences between them and that person in which they started their platform with. The group structure is very authoritarian. In other words, you know, this particular social media cult is based off of. But we'll talk about that authoritarian. I know I'm not my words are chopped up today. But we'll talk more about the authoritarian structure. We'll talk more about that another time because that's pretty deep itself. So there's a lot of things that a lot of people do not look at, they do not consider when it comes to these cult leaders. Now, another thing is that a lot of these modern social media influencers, another one of their characteristics that are not often not talked about is a lot of these individuals came from nothing. A lot of them came from nothing. A lot of these people who y'all worship and praise, a lot of them came from damaging childhoods. Just like that leader, James Jones, Jim Jones, real name James Jones. He was an American cult leader, political activist, preacher, and faith healer. He led the People's Temple between 1955 and 1978. Now, anybody who's very familiar with the Jim Jones mass murder suicide, it was one of the most dreadful and extreme rituals that ever occurred during the 70s. It was really terrible. Jim's and the members of his inner circle orchestrated a mass murder suicide in his remote jungle commune at Jonestown, Guyana on November 18th. Jones and events which occurred at Jonestown have had defining influence on society's perception of cults, because basically what this man did was he had himself and his members, those was following him. He had so much power and influence, he was able to make them all drink Kool-Aid with cyanide. Cyanide, yeah, cyanide. Cyanide is a poisoning which results in headache, dizziness, fast heart rate, shortness of breath, and vomiting. Then it may be followed by seizures, slow heart rate, low blood pressure, loss of consciousness, and cardiac arrest. That's how much power this man had. So many people followed him and worshiped him and praised him to the point he was able to get 909 members, excluding 304 of them being children. All of them died from drinking that poison. Now, if any of these members really understood Jim Jones's past, they will see that this man was not very functional, and he should have not been one for them to appoint as their leaders. But this is what happens even in the Black YouTube social media sector. Long as people know how to finesse and dress the part, they animate it, they know how to roast, they know how to finesse and regurgitate certain rhetorics that was already preached, but they know how to remix them and finesse them. A lot of people not going to question the past. They're not going to look into how does this man or how does this woman know so much about this particular topic. Long as he knows how to finesse it, long as she knows how to finesse it, nobody's not going to look at their upbringing. But a lot of these cult leaders or social media influencers, a lot of them did not have healthy childhood upbringing coming up. Jim Jones was one. Jim Jones, as a child, his father was disabled. He was a disabled veteran who suffered from severe breathing difficulties due to injuries which he sustained in chemical weapons attack. After that, his father's illness led to financial difficulties. So the Jones family, him and his family, they was evicted from their home for failure to make payments. The relatives purchased a shack for them to live at the nearby town of Lynn. The new home where Jones grew up lacked plummeting and electricity, and Lynn, the family, attempted to earn an income through farming, but again met with failure when Jones's father's health further deteriorated. The family often lacked adequate food and relied on financial support from their extended family. They sometimes resorted to foraging in the nearby forests and fields to supplement their diet. So Jim Jones came up with a rough childhood. His father eventually passed away due to the illness and the disability. So his extended family had threatened to cut off financial assistance unless his mother had got a job, because at this point they didn't want to keep supporting Jim Jones and his family, you know. So this forced her to have to work outside her home, while the father had already pretty much deceased at this point due to his illness. So as a result, you know, Jim Jones' parents were frequently absent during his childhood, and it was Jones who was left and abandoned to be cared for by his neighbors and relatives. So this man came up very dysfunctional. He came up with a rough childhood. So of course, due to the things that he had gone through, he ended up seeking religion as an outlet. And that's what he ended up doing. He developed a desire to become a preacher as a child, and he began to practice preaching in private. And his mother, you know, she was disturbed that when she caught him imitating the pastors and stuff, she unsuccessfully tried to stop him, you know, from attending the church services, because she saw how it was changing him, how it was making him be something totally different. So she tried to stray him from it, which it didn't work. And although they had sympathy for Jones because of his poor circumstances, his neighbors reported that he was an unusual child that was obsessed with religion and death, you know. So this, again, Jim Jones had a lot of problems before he became this outstanding worship leader that everybody followed and admired, because he knew how to dress the part, he knew how to finesse the part. So a lot of people overlooked, they did not even understand how troubled he was coming up. Although his strange religious practices stood out most of his neighbors, they reported that he misbehaved in more serious ways. He stole candy from merchants in his town. His mother had to pay the thefts that he was doing. He often used profanity. He used to greet his friends and neighbors by saying, "Good morning, you son of a bitch," or "Hello, you dirty bastard." So this man had a lot of problems way before he got pushed to the forefront as this well-respected leader. I mean, the people who swallowed his poison, all because they so strongly admired him, did not realize this man was very dysfunctional. He even commented during his childhood that he was ready to kill by the end of third grade, and he was very aggressive and hostile. This young man had a lot of issues. He had been married, you know, he had issues in his marriage. He took his wife away from a certain religion and made him follow hers. This man just had a lot of influence, to the point he so much had influence where he got smart. And this is what a lot of these cultural leaders do. They got smart and they brought people on board who they knew was suffer from acceptance and love like they were. So what he did, you know, because at that time we were still going through segregation. We were still going through blacks not being accepted, not given equal rights. So what Jim Jones did, well, he's played on that. He allowed black men and black women to become part of his camp. When during that time, it was a disgrace for any black man to fellowship with black people, to start religions that welcome or allow black people to participate. He was so smart, he keyed on that. He knew that if he wanted his camp to grow, his cult to grow, he knew he had to take in people that were the less accepted in society, which was black men and black women. Because believe it or not, a lot of them drunk that poison. And after getting so much flack, you know, in the States, that is when he went ahead and he moved them. He moved all of his members, including his wife, you know, because in the States, people was, you know, basically trying to infiltrate and his cultism. They kept trying to make trouble for him. So he got smart and he moved himself as well as all his cult members into Guyana, which is a British colony, you know. So he studied the local economy and receptiveness of racial minorities to his message. So that's what he did. He isolated his people and moved them somewhere where they could not be influenced, where they couldn't, he didn't have to worry about you know, people trying to infiltrate on what he was doing. So I'm not going to give too much history on that or whatever. But I'll tell y'all one thing, the Jim Jones documentary, definitely watch that documentary. It will really open your eyes to a lot of things. But I brought Jim Jones up to say, and I'm gonna bring up other cultural leaders probably when I do my other part 2 and part 3, that there are a lot of these cult leaders that come from troubled dysfunctional households. Some of them grew up without fathers. Some of them grew up without mothers. Those who did have fathers, their fathers weren't probably the ideal fathers. Like in Jim Jones' case, he had a father, but his father wasn't really a father because he was disabled. He had a lot of mental illnesses and things going on. So Jim Jones had to teach himself how to be a man. His mother was pretty weak, and you know, the father always led everything. So his mother doesn't sound like, to me, no disrespect to her, that she had much of an influence either. So y'all have to realize a lot of these modern social media cult leaders, a lot of them come from dysfunctional backgrounds. Some of them came from poverty, which is the reason why now they feel the need that they constantly have to dress to impress and wear extravagant things because they came up on poverty, or they came up in abusive households. Maybe the father used to ride down on them because maybe they felt their son had a sexuality, or maybe the mother used to ride down on her daughter because you know, she felt like her daughter was overly sexual, not realizing her daughter had been molested by somebody in the family, whatever. So a lot of these cult leaders, they have unhealthy childhoods, you know, and a lot of them have learned to use their abuse, their neglect. They've learned to use all of their childhood failures as a reason to build their platform, as a reason to build their group against a certain group of people because somebody failed them. You may have a black woman who's constantly bashing black men because somebody in her family as a black man failed her, whether it been her own father, her own brothers. Somebody let her down. Somebody failed her. No different from a man who may have a lot of animosity towards women because somebody failed him, or his own mother probably failed him. If not in their childhood, it could be things that happen to you as you transition as a full-grown man or a full-grown woman. Maybe you didn't have the best of luck in relationships. You kept having divorces, you know, or you kept losing good men because you have all type of dysfunctions that you never got any help or therapy for, and it's caused you to lose having relationships. These are the same people who we allow to guide us, who we allow to teach to us and to preach to us, not realizing that most of the time wisdom comes from broken places. And that is pretty much where a lot of people are able to give so much knowledge. If I'm able to give knowledge about a lot of black men, because I'm built with a lot of black men. And if I have a lot of knowledge about broken black women, maybe I've been with too many broken black women. You're not just going to know how to talk about these things if you've never gone through it and you never experienced. But what will happen if you didn't get any therapy or you didn't heal from that? You would take your truth, you would take your wisdom, and you will weaponize that. Instead of using it to build people, instead of using it to heal people, you will use it to dismantle and destroy. Because believe it or not, every content creator, we all are still dealing with our own demons behind closed doors. Regardless of all the wisdom and the knowledge we share with y'all, all of us got things that we're dealing with in our personal lives that we're not very transparent about. You know how many content creators on here, they got to take a drink before they go live, or have to take a drink when they get off the live, or they got to take pills, take medication. You don't know what people are going through to put up this image that you so dearly love and respect and admire. As a content creator, it is not our job to so much, tell you everything that's going on personal in our life. But at the same time, it's not so much telling y'all, but the thing about it and being transparent with your audience. But sometimes the truth is, a lot of us aren't even transparent with ourselves about our own truths. So even if you want to be secretive as a content creator and you feel like there's certain things you don't need to let your audience on, and vice versa, you have every right to do that. But what tends to happen is, if you don't heal from these things, you will put all your hurt, all your anger, all your animosity into the narratives of the content that you preach. And instead of you healing people, you're destroying people, because you're taking your own personal pains, you're taking your own personal bad experiences, whether from your childhood, whether from your ex-husband, your ex-wife, your baby mama, your baby daddy. A lot of us are trying to heal people when we're not even fully healed ourselves. You got a lot of pastors out there that are teaching the good word, that are reading and know all the scriptures, but underneath they're totally broken. So we're going to talk more about that later on. But I'm already like an hour and 43 minutes. So at 1:50, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, because again, I still want to get into these characteristics about these cult leaders, these modern social media cult leaders. So I'm going to mention some more of their leadership characteristics, and then that's when I'll get ready to close. All right, so let's go more into these characteristics of a leader. He or she requires excessive admiration from followers and outsiders. In other words, the only way you're going to become a part of the modern social media leader, the only way you're going to gain some of his respect, if any at all, is you have to have a lot of admiration for him or her. You basically got to praise them. You got to let them know every time they do a good job. You have to let them know every time they're saying what you want to hear, even if you don't agree with it. Because what tends to happen is, as a listener, you will become more consumed with getting the recognition from the leader versus getting any message from his content. You'll become more obsessed and infatuated with him as the leader, giving you recognition, giving you some type of, acknowledgement, versus just simply learning from him or learning from her. That is what tends to happen when you're dealing with a social media modern cult leader. You basically have to constantly and consistently show them admiration. The next one is they have a high sense of entitlement, expected to be treated special at all times. When it comes to the social media modern cult leader, You can never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, question him or her about anything, because you as the follower, y'all have given these individuals so much props and all this notoriety and fame, YouTube fame, or whatever you want to call it. They feel like they are over and above you now. So who are you to be questioning them about anything? Even if you may, and I'm sure we all have caught our favorite social media content creator. We've seen them contradict themselves about something. We've seen them lie about something. We've caught them saying one thing and do something else. But you bet not dare, under any circumstances, bring it to their attention, interrogate them. Now, they can interrogate you, they could question you, but you better not ever do it with them at all times, or you will pay the price. They want to be treated special at all times, because again, cult leaders, these modern social media cult leaders, think they are God and they deserve to be treated as such. The next characteristics of them is exploit. They're very exploitative of others by asking for their money or that of relatives, putting others at financial risk. Hit the cash app. Hit the cash app. If you want to be part of my movement, it's only members only content. In other words, you can't even listen to my knowledge unless you're paying me up front $3 every month. Other than that, I'm not gonna let you have too much too much interaction into my platform on my channel. You got to pay. A lot of these social media cult leaders, they have it to where, like I mentioned earlier, anybody can listen, but not anybody can just join in unless they are tithing, unless they are putting in money, and that is the way they want it. The next character trait of the modern social media cult leader, he or she is very arrogant, haughty in his behavior or attitude. This comes along with notoriety, with success, with YouTube fame. Once you start increasing in numbers, so do the ego. So does the arrogantness. Now you feel like at this point, you don't have to submit to anybody. You feel like you can say what you want to say to people. You can do what you want to do to people. And if they're not willing to take your abuse, they're not being a real man. They're not being a real woman. It's that narcissistic behavior that if you cannot handle me abusing you, you just not strong enough. You're not woman enough. You're not man enough. This is the psyche of the modern social media cult leader. He feels like if you can't handle or she feels like if you can't handle what they are saying, then you're just weak. And don't have a difference in opinion. If you have a difference in opinion, you are weak. You've been simped, or you a mammy. All because you're not amen, pastor. Amen, pastor. If you're not the amen choir, you will not be accepted at all in their territory. The next character trait is has an exaggerated sense of power, entitlement that allows him to bend rules and break laws. Now, you have some of them that do this in the YouTube sector. They are doxing people. If they're not doxing people, they're constantly, violating, putting out personal information, putting out people's criminal records. You have a lot of them that will bend or break the rules because they feel so highly entitled to do so. So they don't feel like they have to stay in their lane. They feel like they should be able to violate, break all the rules, bend all the policies and procedures because, again, their audience has given them that sense of entitlement that makes them feel like they have the right to do that, but just because of who they are. Take sexual advantage. Now, this is not always the case, but yes, let's face it, some of these modern social media content creators, they will use it to their advantage. Once they realize they have reached a plateau, a certain level of popularity, they got all these women in their chat room checking for them now and all of that. If they can take advantage and sexually benefit out of it, they'll do it. It's the thirsty females that are attention starved, dick starved, that will DM them, that will email them and tell them, I want to see you. I want to be with you. I want to hang out with you. most cult leaders, these modern social media cult leaders, they're going to sleep with these women. These same women that they're telling men to stay away from these overweight women. They smashing overweight women. Telling you to stay away from black women. Yeah, they smashing black women. I mean, they got all of these standards, these social media standards, but behind closed doors, they're doing the complete opposite. And if they're exposed, it's people that are still going to logically make sense. Well, at least she was pretty. At least she looked good. Overlooking the whole ordeal when this person was strong and telling you to avoid certain women. But once our favorite cult leaders are exposed, we will rationalize their exposure. We will try to make it make sense. We'll condone it. We'll justify it. And anybody who goes against it is going to suffer the wrath of those that follow him or her. Okay. What else? They're very hypersensitive to how they are seen by others. Now, let me tell you the funny part about a lot of these modern social media cult leaders. They can dish it, but baby, they sure can't take it. You put any of these jokers in their place, all hell gonna break loose. It's like that last chicken wing and the 6 big girls at the buffet. All hell gonna break loose over that last chicken wing. It is very funny that the energy they dish out, they can't take it. Again, this is that cult mentality of, I can beat you down, I can degrade you, I can bash you, but I'm not going to let you do it to me. And the crazy part is they're so strong at giving it, but they're so weak at receiving it. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all favorite content creators, if that's why they don't let too many of y'all on the panel. This is the reason why they don't do panels with y'all. They don't drop the link. They're not about to let anybody challenge them. They want to do all the challenging. It's that cult leader mentality of, I do all the challenging. Nobody challenges me. Because again, they don't want it to look like they don't have any control. They don't want it to look like they don't want to unexpectedly put them in a position in which they fold because somebody comes at them in a manner they're not prepared or plan to deal with. So to keep things in control, they don't allow no one to have any room to invite themselves into their space. They only allow and accept people into their space who they can bash, who they can talk to any kind of way. And most of the time, these people who they can bash and trash and talk to people in any kind of way are people who admire them or want love and want acceptance. So whenever you want love and whenever you want acceptance, you're less likely to challenge the person who you're trying to get love and acceptance from. It makes perfect sense. So when we wonder why men reach out to these certain content creators, reach out to these certain women like it's dumb, it makes no sense. A lot of it is attention and it's looking for love. It's looking for admiration. They feel like if everybody loves this man or if everybody loves this woman, if I can just get him to show some type of love and gratitude towards me, people will love me or like me based on the strength of his or her love and like for me. Another character trait of the modern cult leader, social media cult leader, publicly devalues others as being inferior, incapable, or not worthy. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the people we admire that's in leadership, athletes, rappers, social media influencer, community leaders, pastors, whoever. A lot of these people don't look like what they have gone through. You don't know what people have gone through in their childhood. You don't know if during high school they was harassed about their sexuality. You don't know if that woman had issues with being very promiscuous and being with multiple men. These people who you admire, you do not know anything about their past other than what they're willing to share with you, which isn't much. It's crazy because I find it strange that a lot of us as subscribers, we're so open to content creators that's not going to be near as open with us. Why would you want to put your whole life map with a stranger who you only know on social media? But at the same time, that person ain't going to share none of their experiences with you. And I get it. As a content creator, you got to protect your privacy. But what's wrong with telling men and what's wrong with telling women, I messed up. I did dumb shit. I married the wrong women. I married the wrong men. That's the thing. You know why? Because they want to have that perfect image to where you can't never challenge them. Because a lot of these cult leaders know if they were to be transparent and say, I lost my marriage because I was an asshole. I could never get a husband because I had a reputation in my town. They know if they was to be very open and transparent, that the audience who admires them is going to be tainted. They know that their golden image is going to be tainted. One thing about the modern social media cult leader, he or she does not want anyone to know nothing about their past, nothing about their failures, nothing about their current struggles, because they are wise enough, and not even so wise, they're so arrogant, they don't want nobody being able to throw up in their face, well, who are you to say I'm not worthy as a man, or you to say I'm not worthy as a woman, when you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, F. They're not going to tell none of their past. If you find out about their past, it's going to be through hearsay or somebody who leaked it, but they're not going to verbally be open and tell that, because it's that sense of them wanting to be superior. And how you gain superiority is you don't let anyone in on your failures. You don't let anyone in on your struggles. That's how you keep your superiority until something happens where you can't control what people find out about you. Then it comes out. Other than that, that's why they do it. They consider devaluing others for that reason. Another thing is that these modern social media cult leaders, they make members confess their sins or faults, publicly subjecting them to ridicule or humiliation while revealing exploitable weaknesses of the penitent. This is what they do. Modern social media cult leaders are narcissists. They will give you that open invite that you can come to them and talk to them about anything. You can share your experiences. You can share your turmoils, your trials and tribulations. They will give you that open door. But it's going to come with a hell of a price, because they're not opening that door because they want to help you with your sins, with your faults, with your issues. They're opening that door so they can publicly ridicule and humiliate you. And this is their way of revealing your weakness. And they profit off your weakness by other people seeing that they can get entertained at the expense of your failures. Let's face it, people invest in drama. People want to be entertained. People don't want to be informed or educated. People are going to put their money where the drama is, where the chaos is. And as a creator, people know, whether if you're producing a movie, you're doing a show, you're doing a podcast, controversy sells. So while you're calling these shows, or you're sitting with these men on their podcasts, or you're sitting amongst these women, while you're there thinking you're going to give a new change of perspective, because you plan on coming on the show as a black woman, you're going to carry yourself with grace. You're going to carry yourself with dignity. You're not going to talk back. You're not going to get smart in the mouth. Or you as a black man, you're going to give this black woman a chance to speak, even though she's always speaking greasy on black men. You're going to go up there and be professional. You're going to be sensible. You're going to be logical. No matter how much you plan in your mind, when you come encounter with these individuals, they are not going to let you be great. They're not going to let you be civil, respectable. They're going to do or say something that's going to poke the bear. No matter how civil you are, no matter how respectable you are, you can have the toughest skin in the world, because you got to remember, that is what they do for a living. It's ridicule and humiliate people. That's how they make their money. That's how their platform has become successful, off of humiliating and ridiculing people. That is what made them known. That's what made them popular. That is what's bringing them revenue. If they was to change that narrative and treat you with kindness and respect, you know how many men who get a jump off of seeing these men disrespect women will unsubscribe from them? Do you realize how many women will unsubscribe from a black woman who talks greasy about black men? And the moment she talks to a black man with courtesy and respect and they're having a good conversation, you know how many sisters will get burnt behind that? No, no, no. We want a show. We want you to put these ninjas in check. We want you to put these strags in check. We don't want to see no kumbaya, civil rights social media moment. We don't want to see that. Truth is, we're broken and we want to see other broken people have conflict. Another has ignored the needs of others, including biological, physical, emotional, and financial. Yes, the superior social media modern cult leader does not give a damn about other people's needs, whether if it's biological, physical, emotional, or financial. He or she only has you around for their own personal gain, whether if it's to make a mockery out of you so they can get profits, rather if it's to make you look dumb so it supports their narratives that black women don't know what the hell they talk about, or black men don't know what they're talking about. Other words, they have no purpose for you. They don't care if you're coming to them because you really want to learn how to be a better man, or you come to them because you want to learn how to be a better woman. They don't care. It's all about you're going to let them use you for the purpose they want to use you for, where they can benefit, where their views could benefit, where the entertainment could benefit. That's what they're concerned about. And another one is they are frequently boastful of their accomplishments. Anytime I say this, you have a man or a woman who's always bragging about everything wonderful. Now I know some of you diehard fans, y'all just hating. A man or a woman should be able to tell if what they got and how they accomplished. Y'all just hating. Y'all don't want to see nobody do well. It's one thing to be proud of your accomplishment, but it's another thing to be overboard to the point you brag so much. There's nothing wrong with balancing, but you brag so much about what you do that you are putting other people down. You brag about what you got. You brag about your viewers. You brag about how great your channel is doing. But anybody else's channel, oh, well, you only got 3,000 subscribers. I got 30,000. You ain't nothing. You ain't nobody. You ain't this. You ain't that. If you already feel great about what you're doing, you don't have to go in details as to how terrible I'm doing. If you're doing great, guess what? You don't have to put other people's name in your title to get other people to come to your channel. If you are so great, you should be able to earn subscribers based off your own merit, not because you bashing other content creators and not because you got other content creators in your title. Your own knowledge, your own wisdom, your own creativities will draw people to you. So it's one thing to brag, but you're knocking other people in the sense of bragging. Or you're not telling people about your struggles before you got to where you going. Okay, yes, I am the successful podcast. Yes, I do have over 40,000 followers. But let me tell you what it took for me to get there. I had to let a lot of people go. I had to stop rocking with people. I had to really start studying the topics that I was doing, so I would be giving my audience reliable information. That's the thing with black folks. Black folks don't want to tell nobody how they got to where they're going. Black folks want to be the only ones to make it. They're not going to sit down and tell you how they got their books published. They're not going to sit there and tell you what sponsors invested in them that's willing to invest in the other black content creators. They want all the wealth for themselves, and that's just the way it is. Another trait of the modern social media cult leader needs to be the center of attention and does things to distract others to ensure that he or she is being noticed. Arriving late to their panels, the way they dress, being overly animated in their speeches, or making theoretical entrances. You have a lot of these particular social media leaders that are always doing too much. most of the time, their center of attention is just being an attack dog. A lot of female and male content creators are just straight attack dogs. That's how they gain attention. They got to always attack another gender or another content creator. That is all that they do, day in and day out. Next one has insisted on always having the best of anything. House, car, jewelry, clothes, even when others are relegated to lesser facilities, amenities of clothing. Oh yes, it's a lot of modern social media cult leaders. That's all they do. They brag about the women they got. They brag about the degrees. You got female content creators brag about the degrees they got. Brag about how they don't have kids looking down on the women, just all kind of things. But anytime you have a content creator that is full of himself or herself, this is that cult leader mentality of I'm superior, I'm above everybody. I'm even above the subscribers who kiss my ass. I'm above y'all too. I'm above y'all who cash out to me. I'm above y'all who donate to me. I'll take your donations. I'll say I appreciate your donations, but I think I'm better than you. I think I'm better than you. This is that cult mentality of always thinking they're better. Always got to talk about, I got these cars. I ain't never been married, so I ain't got no woman taking money from me. Always this superiority about what kind of women you got, how much money you spend, how many trips you took over here, over there. Look, if you are living your best life, it's going to show. It's going to show. You don't always have to be on stunt mode. You don't always have to, have to consistently and repeatedly let everybody know what you got, how many women you got, how many trips you got, how many cars you own. If you live your best life, most men who are secure, they move in silence. Most women who are really making boss moves, they move in silence. They're not around here parading and posting every picture of every trip, every planned landing, every new business adventure. They move in silence because they're confident. They don't need a round of applause from their audience every time they're doing something great. They're confident enough within themselves. If nobody don't never know what kind of car they're driving, if nobody don't never know what they do for a living, they know they living their best life and they don't feel the need to prove it, and that's all that matters to them. Also doesn't seem to listen well to the needs of others. Communication is usually one way. Absolutely. This is the reason why a lot of these modern social media cult leaders do not, they intentionally got their platform set up to where they have full control over the situation. If you get out of pocket, they'll hang up on you. If you say something they don't like, they'll disconnect you. If you're challenging their talking points, they'll boot you out the back, off the panel. Because again, it's all about them. They don't want anybody challenging them. They want to be the only top dog, a top sheepdog that has all the knowledge, has all the intelligence, and they don't want nobody outshining, out stunting them on that. So therefore, it's going to always be a one-way street most of the time when dealing with them. Haughtiness, grandiosity, and the need to be controlling is part of their personality. Next one, they behave as though people are objects to be used, manipulated, or exploited for personal gain. I already told you about that. Inviting people on so they can make a mockery out of them and gain audience that's entertained by the mockery. Next, when criticized, he tends to lash out, not just with anger, but with rage. Like I said, the modern social media cult leader can dish it, but he or she cannot take it. Anyone who criticizes or questions him is called an enemy. Oh, absolutely. You cannot have a difference of an opinion. You cannot challenge the narratives. Not even with his own subscribers. They will get mad. They will get upset. I actually was in a chat room earlier today, and there was a certain gentleman who shall remain nameless, got very upset when there was not enough people in the chat room that seemed to be showing compassion for one of his favorite content creators who passed on, and he was very angry. He got very emotional. In fact, he was so emotional, he chose to he asked could he get his wrench taken from him, because he was just that angry that there was people who was not following who he used to follow, and because they weren't showing the compassion he was showing, he got offended by that to the point he even said he wasn't rocking with me anymore. And I didn't even say any degrading about his godfather or whatever you want to call him, but just because I said I did not care, I didn't say I'm glad he's gone or so what. I did not say anything as far as rejoicing. I said I don't care because I never been a follower, and I said that I never been a supporter of his, so I'm not going, you know, have any compassion for something I don't care about or someone I don't care about. Now, if you choose to, that's your personal business. He got so upset, he derailed like a child. He got angry. He told everybody, F y'all in the whole chat room. He got just that angry because nobody would support who he supported. And that is the day and age we're living in, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of grown men and grown women who really aren't grown, who cannot handle when somebody does not like what they like and vice versa. Moving right along. So, the next, which brings me to the next point, refers to non-members or non-believers as the enemy, because you don't co-sign, because you don't adopt the narratives, you don't give this person praises, you don't defend him every time his ops got something negative to say. You are an enemy. You are their favorite word, hater. Hater is a word that black people like to pass around like hot sauce at a cookout. If you don't go along and get along, you're not in, and that's what it boils down to. Next is acts imperious, at times not wishing to know what others think or desire. In most cases, again, they don't give a damn what a person thinks or desire because it's all about them. Next, believes himself to be omnipotent, has magical answers or solutions to problems. Oh, has the answers to everything. Is never willing to say, well, you know what? I'm really not sure about that. I'll look into that. Well, I kind of got an idea, but I don't just want to tell you something because it sounds good. Let me look more into that. No, they got an answer for everything. Oh, yeah, because blah, blah, blah. Listen, everybody don't have an answer to everything. If they do, they lying. They're liars, because all us don't know everything, okay? Nothing wrong with backing down saying you're not sure. Is superficially charming. Absolutely, very charming. All social media cult leaders are not busted, disgusted. Look like they're out the trash can of Salvation Army. Some of these women are very beautiful. Some of these men are very handsome. They know how to finesse. They know how to talk to you when they want to get a certain way out of you, want to get a certain thing out of you. But as soon as you piss them off, you're going to see them go from Dr. Jekyll to Mrs. Hyde, and vice versa in a heartbeat. But they are very charming, which makes people like them. They know how to talk soft-spoken. They know how to talk, finesse their words. Their words are slick oil like WD-40. Of course, they know how to put that charm on. Like I said earlier, habitually puts down others as inferior. Only he is superior. Next, or she has certain coldness or aloofness about him that makes others worry about who this person really is, or whether or not they really know him. And that's another thing I want to say. Whenever you get in this, you get on this high horse where you're just so aloof and you're so cold to people, and you lack so much compassion, it really makes people start digging into things about you. Like, what is it about this female? Something up with this guy. He's just way too full of himself. This makes people dig into your past. This makes people any little thing they set out alignment, they take it and they run with it, because it makes people curious about you, because you're so full of yourself to the point where you think you can't be touched. And it makes people become curious. It makes people want to dig in and start plundering and looking for things on you so they can find out what's going on. Because like, ain't no way in hell this person, he or she, is that full of themselves. It's something going on with them. Next is deeply offended when there are perceived signs of boredom, being ignored, or being slighted. I guarantee you a lot of these individuals, we saw how they would act if they was not getting the attention they wanted. You would definitely see a different side of them. Unfortunately, a lot of these individuals, we weren't able to see the side of them in an event that they did not have the same popularity they had. But I guarantee you, you will get a different attitude. You will get a different vibe. These same people y'all praise and worship that's getting over these 300,000 subscribers, let them lose their channel today and have to start from scratch. They're going to have a proverbial fit. They're going to have attitude. Treats others with contempt and arrogance. Is constantly assessing people to determine those who are a threat or those who revere him. Yep. The word I dominates his conversation. He is oblivious to how often he references himself. hates to be embarrassed or fail publicly. When he does, he acts out with rage. Or not always. Some of them don't act out in rage. When they get caught or they get exploited or something comes out about them, they don't act out in a rage. If anything, they be real smooth. They keying, laughing like everything's fine. So, yes, a lot of modern social media cult leaders, all of them don't act out in a rage when they are busted. A lot of them, they know how to finesse, be smooth, act like it never happened, and they keep it moving. And guess what? His members, his followers, they're going to act like it didn't happen either. So that's how that goes. Next, doesn't seem to feel guilty for anything he has done wrong, nor does he apologize for his actions. Next, believe he possesses the answers and solutions to world problems. Yeah, Mr. Know-it-all, Miss Know-it-all. Next, believes himself to be a deity or a chosen representative of a deity. Rigid, unbending, or insensitive describes this person thinks. Next, tries to control others in what they do, read, view, or think. Next, has isolated members of his sect from contact with family or the outside world. And I hate to say this, but I find it very interesting that nobody reached out to Mr. Samuel's mother. That disturbs me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, was he that isolated from his family that nobody knew to call her and reach out to her? I think that's pretty sad. But I'm not going to go all into that. But maybe he set it up that way where nobody can get in touch with his family or his outside world. And maybe that was his way of protecting himself. Monitors and or restricts contact with family or outsiders. They don't really deal with family at all. Works the least but demands the most. That's one. Has stated that he or she is destined for greatness or that he will be martyred. And again, it keeps saying he, but I'm speaking on the matters of men and women. Seems to be highly dependent on tribute and adoration, will often fish for compliments, uses enforcers or sycophants to ensure compliance from members or believers. Sees self as unstoppable and perhaps has even said so. Conceals background or family, which would disclose how plain or ordinary he or she is. Yep, they want their reputation kept a certain way, so therefore they make sure you can't really dig too much into their family and see where they really come from. Next, doesn't think there is anything wrong with himself or herself. In fact, sees himself as perfection or blessed. Next, has taken away followers' freedom to lead, to travel, to pursue. That's more of I think that's more of a different type of cult, but that's something to think about. Has isolated the group. Now that's more so for those like Nature Boy that has that scandal going on. But when the question is asked, when do we know when a cult leader is bad or modern social media cult leader is bad or toxic or evil? This is the list in which I was able to pretty much gain a survey of what is considered as the dangerous traits of the cult leader. Of course, the only way to know anything for sure is observe and validate, but these characteristics can go a long way to help with that. And as I have said, there are other things to look for, and there may be other lists, but I felt like this one was the most useful from after doing extensive studying on groups, and I've also talked to former members of cults as well. When a cult or organizational leader has a preponderance of these traits, then we can anticipate that at some point those who associate with them will likely suffer physically, emotionally, psychologically, or financially. If these traits sound familiar to you based on your favorite social media cult leader, group, platforms, social media organizations known to you, then expect those who associate with them to live in despair and to suffer, even if they don't know yet that they will. It's been a whole lot that had to be covered. I might not have to do part two. If I feel like to do part two, I will do that. These were a lot of points that I wanted to break down. As I stated, the new social media, the trend we're at now is going into cultism now, because Like I said, it's past roasting, it's past gossiping, you know, it's past doxing, it's transcended into worshiping and praising, and it's causing a lot of wars, it's causing a lot of division. Anyone and anything that causes a large amount of division um was not the best leadership that was effective for the Black community. Anytime someone creates a movement that is to create division or create conflict from the beginning of time, then their purpose was never effective for the Black community. And that is my whole intake on this. So take it for what it's worth. I know a lot of you are still sensitive. Y'all are still in mourning. You're still in healing. I advise you, if you are still in healing, don't listen to the message because you may get very offended. You may not take this very well, and I get it because you're still grieving. Those of you who are not grieving and can effectively give me your feedback on everything that I have said without the disrespect, without the drama, without the bashing. We don't have to mention names or whatever. Please give me your intake. I would really like to know, do y'all really think we have a social media cultism trend that is going on in the Black community sector? If it's not that, what do you think it is? Leave your opinion below, and if I feel I could reiterate or add anything to what you're saying, I will reply. If not, you know, you probably pretty much address some points that I felt was significant. So before you leave, please make sure y'all hit that like button, hit that like button. Before we exit, I am selling oils, ladies, hair oils. I make my own hair oils, only $10 a bottle. It has 18 herbs in it. So if you're interested, please support my movement by purchasing a bottle of oil. Gentlemen, I also have beard oil for men with a very great aroma. I had a lot of guys that are trying the product and they're very pleased with the product. So if you're interested in beard oil, I am selling beard oil today, only $7 a bottle when they're usually 10. So anyway, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. It is your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Y'all be blessed.